Hello, this is part 4 of part 3 actually, of Henry VIII Oversimplified. Yeah, so I'm not going to be surprised if this ends up going to 8 parts, so yeah. What video would that be? An 8-part, 800 special video? Why not? But let's just see how it goes. So, anyways, I'm about to head into advertisement. So, yeah. Let's go. Let's do this. Yeah, the word is about to be out. The secret's out. And that's gonna spread like wildfire. Any scandal would.
To Henry's shock and horror, Wolsey deferred the case back to the Pope in Rome. To make matters worse, after all the wars in Europe, the Pope was currently under the thumb of Charles V. Now everybody knew what was going on, and Henry's divorce trial had become a pawn of greater European politics. For Wolsey, the decision was a disaster. His job was to keep Henry happy, and Henry was very, very unhappy.
Clearly.
Nevertheless, the divorce trial began. Henry's case rested upon the Bible verse in Leviticus that claimed marrying your brother's widow would lead to childlessness, and Henry was certainly having a hard time getting a male heir. He argued that the Pope had got it wrong when he allowed Henry to marry his brother's widow, and that now divorce was the only solution. However, the Pope and Charles V acquired some interesting letters from an unknown source. He wants to kiss her pretty duckies? Man, this guy's loins are on fire.
Oh, come on!
The case for divorce may not
What's with the wordplay?
But in Henry's pants. After escaping Charles,
come on, really?
That one Cardinal Campeggio to oversee the trial. Campeggio was an old man racked with gout. It took him 6 painful months to travel from Rome to England, and when he finally got there, this kept happening. Hey, I need you to take a look at this evidence. I can't. My gout is acting up. Hey, are you ready to take my testimony? I can't. My gout is acting up. Hey, can you please...
What is with the gout?
I can't. Your gout is acting up, my gout is acting up. Anne Boleyn, with her Protestant views in support of the Reformation, suspected the Pope was just delaying. For 2 whole years, the trial dragged on and
2
on,
years.
and in the end, the Pope simply said, no divorce for you. Henry, the king that had previously defended the Pope militarily from France and intellectually from the reformist ideas of Martin Luther, respected the Pope above all, now found the Pope standing between him and 4th base. Your Majesty, what will you do? I'm the king, dum-dum. I can do whatever I want. What? For his failure, Henry removed Wolsey from the court, a decision that was likely influenced by Anne Boleyn, who disliked the cardinal. Having fallen from grace and with potential charges of treason over his head, Wolsey died of illness a year later. Then Henry set about removing England from the influence of the Pope. Hey, if you do that, I'll excommunicate you. Who cares, man? Oh no, apathy. My weakness! Henry gathered theologians and scholars together to help him make his case against the Pope. Together, they argued to the people of England that the Pope's rule over the Church was basically a takeover of what had once been a self-governing, national, English Church. And if that sounds familiar, some historians do believe this moment may have laid the foundations for English Euroscepticism. That's right, Brexit may have been influenced by Henry's explosive loins.
Oh, man.
People give Henry their support.
Seriously.
Those who didn't, we're going to be in for a rough time. But for now, Henry assumed the role of supreme head of the English Church, and his next divorce trial was a foregone conclusion. Catherine of Aragon was Aragon, and Anne Boleyn was in. Alright, I've upended the entire country to be with you, so you'd better give me a son, okay? Now, did you get my letter about the duckies? Having finally married the girl of his dreams, it was party time for Henry. And what a party. Life in the Tudor court was non-stop. Huge banquets, with each person eating on average 5,000 calories a day. 5,000
calories a day?
Poor people, rich people ate meat. And so you know what else is for rich people? Constipation. But don't let that stop the party. The toilets are communal. And Henry himself was the center of everything. He ate the best food. He had 1,200 pairs of shoes. He didn't even...
Why so many shoes?
Life was great. Everyone, I give you your majesty, King Henry VIII. But how did they pay for it all? Well, influenced by his fairly Protestant new wife, since Henry had overturned the organization of the church, this is how they paid for it. Oh my goodness, how awful. Selling fake fragments of the cross? Vials of Jesus' blood that you got from a duck? Using religion in this way? This is terrible.
It is terrible.
Confiscate all this money at once. Yes, how awful. I must take all of this away. immediately. Monasteries across the nation were dissolved and their riches placed in the royal coffers. Obviously, many people weren't too happy about this, but Henry had a plan for that as well. Henry's descent into tyranny had begun, as any who rejected his new claim as supreme head of the English church found their heads on the chopping block. And so Henry partied. He danced, he sang, he ate, he jousted. Be me. Love glutton. Violate widow.
Oh, man. So no wonder why he was not allowed to
Henry fell from
joust.
his horse in a jousting accident. Not for the first time, but certainly the heaviest fall he had taken yet. Some historians believe the brain damage caused by the incident may have violently accelerated Henry's descent into tyranny. Executions in England ramped up. During his reign,
Is that where the idea of CTE came from? Of what we're seeing from football? Is that possible? Someone in the comments, please let me know if that's similar or on the same path or vicinity.
estimated 57 to 72,000 people.
Jeez,
death.
57?
Rich or poor, big or small, no one was safe. And the most prominent victim of all was to be Henry's own wife.
Oh,
it had
no.
been 3 years since their marriage. Anne had been pregnant 4 times, yet she had only been able to produce one healthy
Queen
child.
Elizabeth?
A
Is
girl.
it Elizabeth
What's
the
more,
First?
It's possible she had been going around insulting Henry's manhood. Henry once again began to wander. His new top man, Thomas Cromwell, didn't want to end up like Cardinal Wolsey, and so he came up with a plan. There was a court musician who had been quite flirtatious in public with the Queen. Well, Thomas Cromwell and his boys got a forced confession out of him, saying that it didn't stop at innocent flirtation, and the charges came rolling in. Listen, Anne, we need to talk. Oh no, you're going to divorce me, aren't you? Just like your last wife. Aw, no, come here, shh, no. I'm not going to divorce you. It's much worse than that. Charged with adultery, perversion, even incest, and plotting to kill the king himself. The judge found her guilty, including her own uncle and ex-fiancé.
Oh, man. This is why you don't have family members in the jury. The jury becomes tainted, and that's susceptible to a hung jury or another trial. Man, so much corruption. So much corruption.
Both fearing the wrath of the king. And on May 19th, 1536, Anne Boleyn was Anne Boleyn. Literally the next
Yeah,
day,
thanks for
Henry
not
met
showing
one of
it.
his ladies-in-waiting, Jane Seymour, his third wife. After Anne had smacked
Divorced,
and since he still
beheaded,
had Henry
and
went on a campaign to ensure the public knew he was as virile as it gets. He had this famous portrait painted of the manliest man I've ever seen. He would even have his physician make a declaration about his health. King Henry is a fine specimen of a man, and please don't make me say this. Say it. And every time I look at him, I wish I was a woman. The truth.
That's a bitter pill to swallow. This has gone out of control.
The truth is, after his jousting accident, the king had badly injured his leg and was no longer very active. Yet he was still eating his daily 5,000 calories. So by now, Henry was extremely unhealthy. For the remainder
He
of
is
his life,
unhealthy.
He would endure a number of illnesses, and his injured leg ulcers would ooze stinking pus. A fine specimen of a man indeed.
No, you're
Church
not.
front. Henry's new and now pregnant wife was a devout Catholic, and she pleaded with the king to reinstate the monasteries. Henry was sick of wives meddling in his business, and he bluntly warned her to remember what happened to Anne Boleyn. Since splitting with the Pope, Henry had been hard at work determining the theology of his new Church of England. It kept many Catholic traditions, while on the other hand embracing some reformist ideas, such as requiring the use of a new Bible, not in Latin, but in English. The cover of Henry's new Bible depicted the people appearing to worship a giant King Henry. And in the corner, there's some people being put to death, just for good measure. For any who opposed Henry's ideas, whether Catholic or Protestant, for any who rebelled against him, it would be off with their heads. In October 1537, Henry finally got what he had been waiting for. His wife Jane gave birth to a healthy boy. However, the triumph soon turned to tragedy, as Jane Seymour died days later from complications during the birth. Henry mourned Jane, the woman who had given him a son, for 2 years. Your Majesty, it's time to choose your next wife.
Thomas! Not now! Can't you see I'm in mourning?
That one. The woman Thomas Cromwell had lined up for Henry's next marriage was the sister of a powerful German duke. But all Henry cared about was that she was pretty as pie, and Thomas Cromwell promised that indeed she was. However, when she arrived in England, Henry was less than pleased. Your Majesty, let me introduce you to your fourth wife, Anne of Cleves.
What's that smell?
I think it's your leg, sire.
It is his leg.
It's Anne of Cleves. She's ugly. This is treason. What? Off with his head.
Henry found his new wife so repulsive that he never consummated the marriage and divorced her just 6 months later. And for bringing to an ugly, stinky woman, along with additional charges of plotting treason, Thomas Cromwell.
I don't know why the advertisement had to come in right as the decapitation occurred. Man. Is that going to be a pattern when we're seeing from his wives? Divorce, behead, died from childbirth, divorce. Is the next one going to be a beheading? Oh man, this is crazy. And it's wrong. Okay, here we go.
Cromwell's execution. Henry married his fifth wife, the famed beauty Catherine Howard.
Another Catherine.
She'd only been 17 at the time. Henry.
17?
And like Anne of
golly. This is horrible. 49-year-old man and a 17-year-old girl. She's still a child. This is horrible. Not having it.
Cleves. Catherine Howard didn't last long. You see, for some reason, she may not have been entirely satisfied with her 49-year-old fine specimen of a man.
He's not a fine specimen of a man.
A number of extramarital affairs, including one with her cousin.
Oh, man. I do not want to be in that type of time period. Jeez. That is horrible. I guess to each their own then, even though... that's too weird. That's too weird.
Thomas Culpeper. When Henry
Culpeper?
Out, he was devastated.
How could she do this to me?
But, sire, don't you have hundreds of mistresses?
Shut up, Barry.
Yeah, look who's talking.
That's not the point.
Your Majesty, you're crying.
I'm not crying. It's just that sometimes, when I get sad, water comes out of my eyes.
For her treason, Catherine Howard met the same fate as Anne Boleyn in 1542.
I hope I don't see it, but... oh my goodness, fifth wife, so... divorce, beheaded, died from childbirth, divorce, beheaded. Okay.
So, we've had divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded. Look out, here comes survive. Henry married the daughter of a royal official, Catherine Parr, in 1543.
Another Catherine.
And she appears to have been a good companion to Henry. She cared for the aging king, who by now was so heavy it took several men to winch him onto his horse. She acted as a mediator.
That poor horse. Not going to be able to hold that weight.
Within the family, and convinced the king to restore his two daughters to the line of succession. Their marriage did have one hiccup, however, when Catherine dared disagree with the king over the subject of theology. It's a miracle, because when the priest says the words of institution, the bread turns into the body of Christ. Well, if you put the bread in a box for 3 months, is it a miracle that it turns moldy?
Treason!
You can't just call everything treason, Henry. The king called for her arrest, as serious charges were placed over her head. However, in the end, she told Henry that she had not been disagreeing with him, but simply learning from him. And so when the guards came to arrest her, the king told them to make like an Anne and cleave. Catherine Parr stayed with Henry right until the end. As he aged into his later years, in increasing pain and ill health, he grew ever more suspicious and moody. The once generous, promising young king...
just like Henry VII.
...all around him. Sigmund, I don't have much longer.
Hold me.
Of course, sire. Do you have any final wishes? How about one last conquest in France? And so in 1544,
Man.
Henry made for Calais. The pesky French had been supporting the Scottish in their ongoing wars with England, and they also owed Henry some money. So the extremely unhealthy king personally led a siege against the French city of Boulogne. The English dug tunnels under the castle, and on the 13th of September, the French surrendered. A glorious victory for Henry. In actuality, the whole misadventure nearly bankrupted England, and they ended up giving Boulogne back to the French a few years later. But shh, don't tell Henry. He's having his moment. Finally, in 1547, a 55-year-old Henry, lapsing in and out of consciousness, passed away. His son Edward succeeded him, but
Edward
died
the
just 5
Sixth.
years later.
Oh,
His daughter,
man.
Mary, briefly took
Mary
the
the
reins and
First.
steered the country back towards the Pope. But then his second daughter embraced
Elizabeth the
reformist
First.
ideas and gradually transformed England into a Protestant country. Henry's desperation to marry Anne Boleyn and his resulting feud with the Pope had changed the course of English history and religion forever. Unfortunately, none of Henry's children had heirs, and when Elizabeth I died, Henry's lineage ended, with the House of Stuart replacing the House of
Stuarts.
Tudor. So then you might think, all that effort, a life filled with so much frustration, yet he never conquered France, he barely had a male heir, and his lineage died out. The egotistical man Henry grew sick and cruel, and then died. So why are we all so fascinated with King Henry VIII? Why not Henry II or IV? Well, without mentioning the many important...
Henry II, Henry IV. Oh my goodness. Let me see if I could go back. William I, William II. I took over Henry I, who was William I's eldest son. King Stephen, Henry II, Richard Lionheart, Richard I, King John. Henry III rebuilt the Abbey Road. Edward II, Edward III, Richard II, Henry, one more, King Henry IV, Henry V. It's so confusing. I don't think I got it, by the way. Correct me in the comments.
And you can put a big green check beside that one. Because everything he did, and how he asserted his control and authority,
Just like Henry VII.
has come to be viewed as the
Almost.
epitome of the word king. And also because of the wife killings? Yeah, definitely the wife killings.
Yeah, clearly because of the wife killings. The War of the Bucket, oversimplified. Alright, well that was Henry VIII oversimplified. My goodness, what a mind trip this is. And the fact that this is real in British history. Oh, man. But, yeah. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. Sorry, Code Brown, that it took a while, but, yeah, sorry everyone that, I've been so busy with, work and school, I should be done with school by the middle of May, and I could just try to do as many more reactions as I can after that. So, but I'm on spring break now, and I'll try to do as many as I can. I'll just try to film a bunch of reactions and just slowly release them, slowly upload them. So, yeah. And thanks again for 800 subscribers. It really means a lot, and I'm surprised that you guys are interested in my videos, especially my second channel, which is, I forgot how many subscribers. I know it's at least over 1,100, I think, close to 1,200. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm shocked. So yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate all the love and support and all the nice comments that I've been getting. So yeah, I'm surprised. Closing in on 20 minutes. So yeah, anyways, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. You know the drill. Please like, please subscribe. If you guys have requests, comment down below. And again, thanks so much for 800 subscribers here on my main channel and over 1,100 on my second channel. Anyways, see you guys in my next reaction. Peace.